We start on a 2-shot, and then, bow! 3 people on set. There he is, Sam Monson, Pro Football Focus, frequent guest on our program, in the flesh here in Las Vegas. Sam, Patrick Mahomes. You guys at PFF, Pro Football Focus, love crunching the numbers. So from Christmas Day, I guess post-Christmas, what has changed from Patrick Mahomes? 14 interceptions, including one against the Raiders. Since then, no interceptions. And I believe at PFF, 0 turnover-worthy passes.
Yeah, 0 turnover-worthy plays at all in the postseason. He just flipped a switch and said, okay, now it matters. I'm going to stop making mistakes. That's it. And it's crazy because he's already the most mistake-free quarterback in the NFL. Forget turnover-worthy plays. Obviously, those are the most egregious mistakes, the ones where you're really putting the ball in harm's way, jeopardizing a turnover. But any negatively graded play for us, whether he's just missing a throw, it's not dangerous, it's fairly harmless, but it's a slight negative grade. He has the lowest negatively graded play rate of any quarterback in the NFL, about 10% of his dropbacks. In the playoffs, that's gone down to 6%. So he's taken an already league-leading number and taken 4 percentage points off it and just said, okay, if you're going to beat us in the playoffs, you're going to have to do it playing mistake-free football because that's what I'm doing.
So then the question obviously becomes on the other side, Brock Purdy. There's, a lot of turnover-worthy plays there in his game, depending on how he's playing that day. So does Kyle Shanahan take the ball out of his hands and just run it here in this game, or do you think he has to some degree, trust Purdy?
I think he has to some degree, but he will want to run Christian McCaffrey. Like, if the 49ers are able to run the ball relatively comfortably, if McCaffrey has a big day, their chances of winning the game go up. There's no doubt about that. But at some point, you're going to have to trust Brock Purdy to make a play, and you're probably going to have to trust him to make a play in non-ideal circumstances because that's where his strength lies when he's playing at his best. They need Brock Purdy playing a much cleaner brand of football than he's played so far in the playoffs.
So from the data that you have, this game obviously indoors here in Las Vegas, and we know that he struggled. The game in Cleveland was bad. The first playoff game was bad against Green Bay for a large portion of it. Does that help his cause a lot? The fact that this game is not going to have any weather considerations whatsoever?
It can't hurt, right? I mean, you're looking at Brock Purdy in some of his worst games. You can directly tie to bad weather and the rain. And it's difficult to know if that's a one-to-one thing. And we just say, all right, Brock Purdy can't play now if it's raining, right? Or he's going to play badly. You're going to get a bad version of Brock Purdy as long as it's raining. Or if those were just, the Cleveland game, it's also against one of the best defenses in the NFL, right? So it's always difficult to know when you start shrinking down the sample sizes and where are the confounding factors. But we do have evidence of 2 wet weather games where Brock Purdy has played some of his worst football. So you take that off the table as an outcome, as a factor. It has to play into his favor.
Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus joining us here in studio. He's the lead NFL analyst for PFF. They were just up at Stadium Swim recording some content, so make sure you get all of their great Super Bowl content. Coaches, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, how do you guys grade these 2 out? Who do you give the edge to?
I think they're 2 of the best coaches in the NFL. They're 2 of the best offensive minds in the NFL. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan's offense in some variant is basically taking over the league, whether it's Bobby Slowick over in Houston, whether it's Mike McDaniel in Miami. Those 3 quarterbacks were 1, 2, 3 in terms of yards per attempt this season. That offense is the current meta system. It's a cheat code, effectively. But Andy Reid is also one of the best offensive minds in the game, paired with one of the best quarterbacks, and he's an outstanding game planner as well. There's always been that crazy stat about Andy Reid. Right, with 2 weeks to prepare. It's real. It's not undefeated anymore, but it's a real factor that guy can scheme when given a couple of weeks to prepare. The fascinating element is each one of these guys has blind spots, and they're kind of the same, right? It's clock management. It's late in the first half, late in the second half. They tend to do some quirky things, and if either one of them is able to avoid doing that, that could be a big turning point.
So I think the overarching theme here for a lot of people is the expectation that there will be a lot of running in this game, which of course brings the offensive lines into the equation. The Joe Thuney injury for the Chiefs, a big deal. Taking that into account, who has the advantage on the offensive line in this game?
I think the 49ers probably do, simply because the offense hides it better. The 49ers offensive line is not good outside of Trent Williams. And if you look on paper, it's been a weakness all the way through the season, but almost nobody has been able to make it matter. Like, very few teams have been able to manifest that weakness on paper on the field and have it actually turn into a game-deciding factor. the Chiefs have the horses on the defensive line to do that, but that Shanahan system is so good at hiding those players and taking them out of those obvious pass protection situations where the biggest problems arise.
Sam Monson, Pro Football Focus, joining us here on VSiN Primetime. You know, we were just talking about it last segment, Sam. A lot of people believe Isaiah Pacheco, when his prop, has come up, it's over. It's over. Whether it be rush attempts, whether it be rushing yards. When you look at Steve Wilks' defense, the struggles that they've had these past couple of games, do you think Isaiah Pacheco has a day on Sunday?
I think he could. The Chiefs are able to run the ball. Pacheco is obviously a really good running back. I think he's a very different running back, though, than the ones that have really caused them problems in the last couple of weeks. I think the 49ers defense in particular, it's vulnerable against the run on the edges, and it's vulnerable against explosive running backs. You know, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, those are fast, explosive running backs that can take any crease and turn it into a much bigger gap. Pacheco is much more of a north to south type of runner. Doesn't mean he's not explosive, doesn't have speed, but he is much more, he wants to run the ball up the middle more than he wants to get to the corner and punish them that way. So I think it could definitely be an issue, but I don't think Pacheco is the type of running back that really wants to exploit where they've been weak.
So if you're Kyle Shanahan in this game, we talked about they're going to have to trust Brock Purdy to some degree. Who do you attack on that Chiefs secondary? Because, I mean, the Chiefs secondary is very, very strong, as we know. You know, Baltimore seemingly made a mistake not running the football more. Who is it that you think they should go after? Is there a mismatch for them in the passing game they can exploit?
No, I don't think they're going to target any individual. I think the Chiefs defense is too strong that way. It's going to be, can they get those open receivers the way they've been able to do pretty much since Kyle Shanahan has been there. That's what they specialize in. And it's going to be finding the individual mismatch on a given play. Like the strength of that 49ers offense is you can't cover all those guys. You can't win a one-on-one matchup with everybody because they're too good. Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk, they have every one of those guys is a matchup problem. And you might be able to win the rep against 2-3 of them, but somebody's going to be open. And it's a case of, can Brock Purdy find that guy and go after him, even if it changes, every single snap.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. Sam Monson, Pro Football Focus, joining us here in studio. Yesterday we did an exercise with a bunch of different people. Okay, let's just go through unit by unit who has the advantage. And I think more often than not, KC has a slight advantage when you do it in its totality. If you give the edge to Andy Reid, if you give the edge to the secondary for Kansas City, lines are kind of a wash. But my ultimate question, Sam, is do the skill players for San Francisco, are they just that much better than Kansas City's that can hoist them up to win this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's entirely possible. A lot of that, though, relies on Brock Purdy.
Right.
The skill position players are amazing. It's why Brock Purdy doesn't get the credit that maybe he deserves sometimes, because they say, yeah, but look who he's throwing to, or look what they have around him. And we know Shanahan makes a big difference as well. But Purdy has to get the ball to those guys. And if he's able to do that, and he has been for most of the season, that's absolutely has the capacity to equalize things. But it goes back to what we said before. Mahomes probably isn't going to make a mistake.
Right.
So if Purdy has a big error in him, or somebody else does, all of that good work could be undone.
So when you look at the point spread, it's 2. It's coming down a little bit. We have, the juice is moving here, Sam. Final minute. If this game was played on Christmas, San Francisco's probably a 5 or 6 point favorite. So we've seen an adjustment, but understandably so. How do you see this game playing out? What's your feel on Sunday?
It's funny because if you look at the totality of the evidence of the season, you would say the line is where it should be. The 49ers have been a better team. They should be a better team. They should be favored. Therefore, they will win. But if you look at the small sample size stuff and you say playoff Mahomes is different, and it's not just this season, his career has been way better and way more risk averse or turnover averse, you would say most of the data doesn't count. We have to go with the smaller sample size, and you have to trust what we've seen the last couple of weeks, which is Mahomes doesn't lose these games. Therefore, the Chiefs should be favored.
All right. Chiefs win?
Yeah, I think so.
Sam Monson.
Low scoring.
I think it'll be high. I think both offenses are going to have success.
Over and Chiefs. Sam Monson at PFF_Sam.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.